Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey My Mother's Son podcast. Today, Sandy and I are going to talk about our leg of our trip. We're a little behind here in recording, but leg of our trip from Illinois back into Pennsylvania, New Jersey, back in late September and October. We last left you guys as we were leaving Iowa after my Field of Dreams book signing, and we went to Rockford, Illinois. After that, met with some friends of ours, had breakfast with them, Brian and Ryan. Stayed a couple days at the
Rock Cut State Park.
We were there.
Illinois.
We were there in 2021. Really nice state park just outside of Rockford, Illinois. After breakfast, we had some time to kill before we could check into the state parks. There was a real nice local park there and a botanical gardens.
Flower garden along the river river.
Yeah, so we took Uke for a nice walk there, enjoyed the scenery, and then stopped at, got in, checked in at the state park, and we're there for 2 nights.
Right.
It had been kind of raining on our way in from Iowa into Rockford. We hit a lot of rain, and from what I understand, there's some rain a couple days before, so have some real nice trails there, but a lot of them were closed, but we still got like about a 3-mile hike in.
We did, yes. It was still nice.
Yeah, and again, it's just a beautiful
Make the most of it.
park. They have a couple hundred sites there, I think 4 different loops.
Yes.
Handful of cabins, tent sites, and it's right along a nice lake as well. Like I said, we enjoyed it when we were there in 2021, and we had a couple days we wanted to kill, so to speak. So we decided we'd stay back there again and just had a good time. Our last day there, again, rained again. But luckily they have a late checkout. We didn't have to check out till
probably like 1,
I believe,
something like that.
which was good because it rained until about 12:30. So we took advantage of the late checkout, and then we're headed to Michigan that night, but ended up stopping and having dinner with another friend of ours, Annie Lighting, who we met a couple years ago. I had her on the show. We met her through the Children's Alopecia Project, so we were able to connect with her again. It's been
Nice.
about a year and a half since we've seen her. She's a school teacher now, out of college for a little while, year or two, and doing really well. So it was really nice to be able to spend some time with her. She's a big fan of Eucalyptus and supporter of his book. We were trying to work out an opportunity for me to speak at her school and a signing, but it was also the week of standardized testing, so it didn't line up the way we wanted to, but we're hoping we can make that happen in 2024. So by the time we left her, we basically drove just into Michigan and stayed at the Michigan Welcome Center, on the western side of Michigan.
The views were beautiful.
Yeah.
They really were.
We didn't get in there until
It's probably late.
Yeah, midnight, 1 o'clock even, and we had about another 5 hours to drive to Monroe, Michigan, where I was doing some book signings at a Kroger there for 3 days. So we didn't get a super early start the next morning, but it wasn't super late either. But because we got in so late, we didn't have a ton of time to sleep. So we split the driving. Sandy drove for about 2 hours or so, rest area to rest area shot, which is, again, it was great. I could get in the back of the rig and sleep for a little bit, and meant I wouldn't be falling asleep during the book signings. Right. So that was a plus. So we got to Monroe, Michigan. Signed there for 3 days. It was actually really cool. We met another couple that were full-time RVers. We ended up having dinner with them at a Cracker Barrel in Monroe where we were staying. And we also met a gentleman who was actually from our hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania, and his wife was an author. He ended up buying a copy of one of my books and actually gave us his wife's 2 books, and it was really neat and kind of a example of a small world,
right?
You know, but from there again, we had a long drive ahead of us.
I think we drove straight into PA then.
We did. When we left, the last day that I signed was on a Friday, and I think we wrapped up at 3, and drove straight into DuBois, Pennsylvania.
Stayed just out, I think, at a Cracker Barrel or
Walmart.
something?
Stayed at Walmart.
And then we ended up getting up early the next morning because we wanted to go to see the elk in Elk, PA. So
yeah, it's funny, we've traveled all over the country and
we didn't realize it.
Only saw a small herd of elk from a distance when we were in the Grand Tetons a couple years ago. And other full-time friends of ours, probably more than a year ago, had posted about being up at the Elk Country Visitors Center in Pennsylvania to see the elk, and we hadn't even realized there was a herd of elk in Pennsylvania even after living there our entire lives. So we knew it was mating season, and we wanted to make sure that we got up there. So
they say the best time is early in the morning before sunrise, and at sunset is the best time to see the whole bugling, which is totally amazing. Blows me away just knowing that we heard that. And we did see elk from a distance. It wasn't close up, but it was from a distance, and it was still neat.
Luckily, we remembered our binoculars, which is something we often forget, where we'll be out on a trail sightseeing, and we're like, oh, we should have brought the binoculars.
It was packed at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we thought we'd be doing great, but we got there, and the parking lot was overflowing already.
It really was. I was surprised. I mean, because we left the Walmart in DuBois before sunrise, got to the visitor center, right as the sun was coming up, and like Sandy said, parking lot was packed, a lot of people there, and as soon as we got out of the RV, we could hear the elk bugling, which was really pretty wild.
It is. The visitor center was really informative too, and if you ever go, I suggest you go when you paid $5 a person to go and watch the video and the movie inside the visitor center.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very, very cool, very informative. I learned a lot about elk that I had no idea.
Yes.
And then, like I said, from the observation area, we were able to see a bull elk with his harem, and some other bull elk kind of circling around the harem. That's kind of the way they work. They try to work their way into the herd and get a couple of the cows out of there, but the main bull elk made sure that didn't happen, at least not that day. But I'm glad we had the binoculars, because it was pretty cool to see that. And the timing for us was perfect, because shortly after we left, there was rain in the forecast, and we had good weather. It was kind of cool, but we knew the rain was coming, and as soon as and it was within an hour of us leaving,
it
started raining and just cut loose.
It was when we were eating lunch down through getting out of the area.
Our son-in-law gave us a good recommendation on a spot for lunch, which I don't remember what it was anymore.
I don't know either, but it was great.
But it was really good. And
there was no phone signal, and we know that. It was just a dead spot.
And so from there we drove into Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and just stayed the night at a Cracker Barrel. And then the next day went into Lehighton, because we were going to see Grace Potter in concert in Jim Thorpe the next night at Penn's Peak, which is an awesome venue.
It's another place we've never were at.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's right
pretty much in our backyard, hour and a half from our old home in PA, and never saw a show there. And it was still raining at that point, but got to the venue early, so we could, have enough space to park the RV. But there was a ton of parking there. We had no issues whatsoever with getting the RV parked.
It was raining again that night.
Yeah, and went in and just saw an awesome show of Grace Potter. She put on a great show, and then just went back to the Walmart in Lehighton and stayed there that night. And then from there we made a trek up into the Poconos to Tobyhanna State Park,
which was another amazing place.
And we were there 3 or 4 nights,
I think.
And it was
like what, Tuesday to Friday?
Monday to Friday, actually. Yeah, because we Grace's show is on Sunday night, so we were there, Monday through Friday.
Did some hiking there.
Did a bunch of hiking there.
The campground itself wasn't full because it was cooler weather at the time.
Yeah.
But the wildlife, well, I shouldn't say wildlife, I guess, mostly deer. The deer.
They were very tame wildlife.
Because they were so used to human imprint that they came right up to you.
Yeah.
They were only like a foot away from us.
Yeah, the one time Uke and I went out to go potty in the morning, and there was a buck literally 12 feet from the RV door. Uke didn't even see him at first.
He didn't bark.
The buck saw him and wasn't even remotely scared or anything.
Didn't care at all.
By the time Uke even knew anything was going on, the buck had went off, but definitely was not fearful of the dog in any way, shape, or form. There was another group at a campsite up from us who was literally hand feeding these deer corn. And we were right on the brink of hunting season, so we were, I think the deer had probably figured out enough they want to stay within the confines of the state park.
Right. We also got hiking, and you got a little bit more hiking.
Yeah, I was in the process of training for my Mammoth March, which is a 20-mile hike that I was, doing that coming weekend. So I got out for like a 5 and a 7-mile, 8-mile hike while we were there. Again, the first days it was raining, so we had some small windows where we got some shorter hikes where the 3 of us went. One time just Uke and I went, and then one time just I went.
We all went too.
And so it was a beautiful state park, though. If you're ever have an opportunity to get up there to Tobyhanna State Park in Pennsylvania in the Poconos, definitely take advantage of that.
And I think the trails were pretty darn nice
trails
too.
Are really in good shape. The main trail is basically a 5-mile loop around the park, which is nice, and then there are a couple other ones that branched off that, like I said, I could get an 8-mile hike in the one day by just branching off on some of the side trails, and
they were cleared really well.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Now some of the ones I did on my own that day, I went out on my own, were a little sketchy, but that going in as well.
And it was late. I mean, it was what, September?
Yeah.
End of September, October almost.
Yeah. So then, when we left the state park on Friday, we headed to Hackettstown, New Jersey, to do the Mammoth March. We were actually helping with the setup on Saturday. We got in Friday, and again it was raining, so not a lot of setup to be done. By the time we got there, the main staff, Michael and Ruth, and their main staff had the things that could be done on Friday while battling the raindrops done by the time we got there. So we just kind of got us a spot for us to park, and
some odds and ends maybe to be tied up and help them.
Yeah, and then just hung out for the night and started pretty early the next morning, getting things set up for the hike. And I've done a couple podcasts with Michael in the past. I did the hike in Jersey the year before with my niece Rebecca. This year, her and her boyfriend Jason were coming up, and my nephew Daniel were coming up as well. And then I actually I have footage. I haven't released it yet because I ended up not finishing the hike this year. I had some really major blisters on my heels because I was dumb enough to wear the same boots that I was going to hike in on Sunday to help with the setup in the rain in the morning on Saturday. So I started off the hike in wet boots and got 16 3/4 miles done and didn't finish it. So I probably will release that video of the hike, but I kind of I still feel bad that I didn't finish it.
You still tried. You still tried, and you would have. I think you would have pushed yourself a little bit more, even. But
there's a lot of blood, and I was on the verge of trench foot as well. When I took my feet off, you could see they were wet. They were starting to wrinkle up, so I didn't want to. When I saw that, I definitely didn't want to stretch it anymore. But it is what it is. I know I can do it because I did it the year before. I just got to be smarter about my not wearing the same boots and starting out a 20-mile hike in wet boots. It was kind of dumb. So lesson learned, and it is what it is. So yeah, that was it. We just wanted to give you guys a real quick recap of that stint to get in from Illinois to Pennsylvania. We stayed the entire month of October in Pennsylvania. We were able to get caught up on some things, get Sandy's mom to some doctor's appointments that she had to get to, and all that fun stuff. And our next episode, we'll talk about our trek from Pennsylvania to Florida, and that's a cool episode. I think you guys will enjoy because we got an opportunity to stay at some really neat harvest hosts, and we'll highlight those in
some neat state parks
next
too.
episode. Yeah, and some really cool state parks. So again, we'll save that for the next one. And for everybody out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com. While you're there, check out some of my books, and I'd appreciate some purchase of those, and you could appreciate some of his as well. So I think that's why I wanted to jump in here at the end, to make sure everybody knows that he's got a couple books out there as well.